Alive and Well STL is a presentation of the St. Louis Regional Health Commission and RareGem Productions to build a healthier St. Louis. Power up with the positive. Learn more at OneRareGem.com. That's OneRaregem.com.
Support for Alive and Well STL comes from Beyond Housing, helps entire communities become better places to live. Learn more at beyondhousing.org.
The Regional Health Commission works in partnership with regional health sector advocates and stakeholders to improve healthcare access, reduce health disparities, and improve health outcomes for the uninsured and the underinsured in St. Louis City and County.
Alive and Well STL with Bethany Johnson-Javois, CEO of the St. Louis Integrated Health Network and Managing Director of the Ferguson Commission.
Today we are joined in studio with Dr. Donald Suggs, publisher and executive editor of the St. Louis American.
Because I know the history of our people in this. And it's not unique. I mean, if you look at world history, there are a lot of people who've been oppressed. But, I mean, this is something that, I live, and I feel a special obligation because I do know that the history does not start with just, 20 years ago. I mean, I know the nature of slavery. I know how it traumatized people. And I know not all of us, not everybody is affected in the same way. And the more you know, the more you are offended by the way your people have been treated.
We'll be right back.
Setback is just a setup for a comeback. So how do you get back when life throws you curves? Take 5 and take you back. Try this. Realize that you can't change what happened, but you can change how you respond to it. Pause. Take a minute to breathe and find out exactly what's going on with you. Regulate. Build a routine around the life you want. Communicate. Talk about it and listen for answers. Be determined to bounce back. Discover more things to try. Go to aliveandwellstl.com. Alive and Well STL.
Hello and thank you again for joining us today. My name is Bethany Johnson-Javois, CEO of the St. Louis Integrated Health Network and Managing Director of the Ferguson Commission, and most importantly, host of Alive and Well STL. Today, we are joined in studio with Dr. Donald Suggs, publisher and executive editor of the St. Louis American. And as we talk and think about what it means for our community to be alive and well, I'm pleased to be speaking with you, Dr. Suggs, this morning. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm fine. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. Through your work, as well as the things I know about your life experiences, which I hope to get more into that, you carry a unique perspective globally, locally, regionally, and I'm happy that you could join us to talk about being alive and well. So I'm going to start off with the obvious stuff and then talk about some deeper stuff. The St. Louis American is one of the jewels of our community and has become a jewel of our nation. It gives place to the voice of St. Louisans, the voice, most importantly, of the African American community. And with your vision, the American has the largest readership of any weekly newspaper in the state of Missouri and has a second recognition as being the leading African American newspaper in the country. Is that true?
Well, we've been fortunate, yes, in that way. We have won some awards, and we are the largest weekly in the state, yes.
What are you most proud of when it comes to the St. Louis American?
Well, I think I'm most proud of any efforts that we've made that help us to reflect some of the things that are going on in the community. I think that our value lies in our being an institution that's very much integrated into the community and its concerns and its interests, and its values and its aspirations.
I'm going to start off with the easy question. What does it mean to you to be alive and well in St. Louis?
Well, this age in my life, I guess to be alive. Actually, I come from a pretty long line of long livers. My mother's 102. I think that the challenges that we see in our community, and I do think there are some opportunities as well. It's discouraging because a lot of the trends, are not so positive in my view. And I think that St. Louis in particular, during this time, globalization, all these things that are going on that are really sort of outside our ability to impact them directly, but they do influence our lives and how we are going to be able to make some of the changes that we need to make if we're going to be more successful as a region.
So I know you to be someone that prioritizes physical fitness as part of being alive and well. Tell me about your regime and what you do, why you do it.
Well, it has changed. As we age, certain things happen inevitably. I was a runner, fairly serious runner for many years, 45 years. And then that wasn't possible, certainly not to do that as I had done for many years before. And so about 4 or 5 years ago, we started strength training, and that also we cross-trained with some aerobic things as well. And I do think, I am absolutely convinced the data reflects that, and I think in my own personal experience that cross-training does help to slow down aging. And aging, has to do with cognitive decline and sight, all those things. But I do think, I am convinced that along, obviously, the most important thing probably is genetics. And after that, I think nutrition, and I think also to have a life that has balance, and I think to deal with the spiritual side of your personhood.
How do you keep your spirit alive and well?
Well, I think that you have to nourish the interior self, and I think it varies with individuals. I mean, I come from a traditional family of faith.
You and I share a certain acronym of faith. You want to share that with the listeners?
Well, actually, I've never, been a formal member, but I was certainly, my early life was shaped by the values and the experiences that I had with people of faith. My mother was very devout. She became Pentecostal, I think, when she was 19, and she's 102. And I've never seen her waver. We were a family of very modest means, but she had a kind of inner strength and a determination, as well as a deep, 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 deep commitment to her children, to her church, and to her community. And so at least I was introduced to those values at a very early age. And I appreciated it then, but I appreciate it even more now as I've grown older.
So take us back to your childhood. Your mother clearly is still influential at 102 in your life. You told me that no question was off the table. So Dr. Suggs, how old are you?
Oh, well, I'm past 80. How's that?
Really?
My friends tell me that, the problem, I have the same reaction. When I look in the mirror, I said, who's that? Because people will feel very differently about you when they hear that age, because I feel very differently about it. And so I'm not at all, it's not about a vanity thing, that I'm still active. I'm still very much involved with a business that's demanding. And you're still asked to be able to reason and to interact. And I think it's off-putting for people when they hear that. So that's my only reservation about that.
It's a stigma to the age once you say it.
I think people, and all of us, we're conditioned in that way. I mean, you walk, and I look in the mirror and I'm saying, who's that? And I didn't get any sense about aging until I was about 70. I didn't even think about it one way or the other, because I'm fortunate to, still be able to be fairly active. And I'm surrounded by friends. I was just recently in New York the last 2 weekends, and the people that I interact with are very bright, creative people, and it sort of encourages you to at least try to be halfway sharp, or at least to be engaged. So I think all that, just as the physical side, on the fitness side, I think on the mental side, the more you are engaged with people. I'm fortunate. I have 3 children. My son passed away, but my daughters are well educated, and my friends intellectually are very sharp, bright, creative people. And I think that's helps to keep, I'm probably better than I would be ordinarily, because it wasn't my profession, which had more to do with, in my view, and I don't want to be disrespectful, more training, vocational training, and had some challenges and some satisfactions. But this circle of friends and my children's, the way they were educated, is a lot more stimulating. One has a larger view about the world and kind of deeper insights into some of these things, because you ask all these questions of yourself and you have these concerns that are way outside my upbringing as a working class person. So I think that that's made a big difference in my own life.
So I'm wanting to see if you'll go back with me to your childhood.
Sure. A
bit, and tell us about the life events that shaped you now that happened when you were were young.
I grew up in a life in an environment of strict racial segregation. The restaurants and the movies were all segregated, but the schools, because I was from a community outside Chicago that was too small to have dual school systems, so the schools were integrated. And one thing about very young children is they will migrate toward each other. And so at some point, I don't say this with any pride, but apparently I learned the code switch fairly early, and I could get on fairly well with white classmates. As a matter of fact, we started a newspaper when I was in junior high school with a guy who was the smartest guy in our class. And we were very much a diverse group inside the classroom. African Americans were not the majority, and we had a number of people from Latin America. We had many people from Mexico, Puerto Rico, Eastern Europe, Croatia, Hungary, Poland. So I had a very varied upbringing. Of course, I didn't realize that at the time. And we had a little bit of a stirring of our politics. We had a school strike, which helped influence me a little bit. Also, we were subject, or at least we were exposed, I was exposed, a number of us were exposed to labor organizers who came from the East Coast, Brooklyn, probably in retrospect, Republican communists. They gave you some insight about your circumstances, why you were poor, why your father had this menial job, he was a smart person, and why you tried to explain, put some context around your circumstances. So I think all those things had some influence. I also lived all of my summers with my grandmother, who was also Pentecostal. As a matter of fact, she was apostolic. Her church initially was in a residence, and her pastor was a woman, Mother Brazier, who was the mother of Bishop Brazier. Mm-hmm. So I knew him as a young man coming back from the Navy. So I had that experience, but also physically, they lived in a nice apartment, with carpet on the stairs and marble on the sides in the entryway and a balcony. And we were about a block and a half from a very nice park. In my own hometown, I lived in a basement and, cold water. And so, but at least I had access, or at least I was exposed. So the political influence, the diversity, the racial diversity, I got on well with my white classmates.
And tell me about this first paper that you helped to co-found in high school. I see some stuff coming later.
Yeah, it was called The Galloping Gossip, which was really very chatty. My co-publisher was a nerdy guy, and I guess it was a bit more outgoing.
Were you the cool guy?
I wouldn't say that, but I mean, I could hang, right. You sort of have this double. At that time, there's a very strong requirement among young black males to be, at that time it was called cool, have swag, and so.
Mm-hmm. And you could code switch effectively.
I could apparently, yeah. And not being a big man, first of all, when you are a little better in school, they're going to, in quotes, pick on you. So I discovered how you handle that is that you had to be willing to fight. So what you would do is try to make certain that happened in the schoolyard or someplace where they would break it up. But once they found out you would fight, then the big guys were willing to say, don't mess with Suggs, right? Because apparently I was a little more quick in some ways. And so I was able to get through on that level. And I always had jobs. I mean, I had a strong work ethic. My father, had a menial job, but he was a voracious reader. And my mother was a woman of deep faith. So the household was very sacred, and cleanliness was like, was absolutely required. We had to, scrub the floors every day. And I had a sister, and we honored, of course, my mother and my sister. And today, my sister, who's a caregiver for my mother, we have a wonderful relationship. She's a very special person. So I'm a blessed person in the sense that nothing special about me, but I've been in environments and have interacted with people who've been extremely helpful and for me. So
share this with me. You had all of this exposure. You had mentioned before we started recording that your background, some would assign to you the word privileged. However, your demeanor since I've known you is very laid back. Your leadership style is in the back of the room, but clearly Dr. Suggs is there, and you're orchestrating stuff. You're making it happen. Now, with this calm demeanor, you indicated to me earlier that you're angry. I want to know what you're angry about.
Well, I think because I know the history of our people in this, and it's not unique. I mean, if you look at world history, there are a lot of people who've been oppressed, but I mean, this is something that, I live, and I feel a special obligation because I have been able to do as it goes, starting from very modest beginnings and being a person of, again, modest talent, people who are much more talented, gifted, energetic, who hadn't had the opportunities, I guess, that I've had. But remember that my brother was murdered. And so I've got all of the history And I am very strongly connected to African American people. When you're working class, what you aspire to be is middle class. And so I got to middle class, or even upper middle class, one might say, because I was in the art business. And so I was around an environment that was probably a little more, I guess, considered to be more elevated. But what I never wanted to do, and I feel this way so strongly, if those are my people, and I've never seen anybody, I mean, I don't like their behavior. When that boy gets shot down, that's painful for me. I'm not saying because I'm sitting over here traveling and, enjoying and having this kind of privileged experience. I care for that. I'm not trying to separate myself from that, because I do know that the history does not start with just, 20 years ago. I mean, I know the nature of slavery. I know how it traumatized people. And I know not all of us, not everybody was affected in the same way. And the more you know, the more you are offended by the way your people have been treated.
Stay tuned. Next week, we will continue our conversation with Dr. Donald Suggs. Alive and Well, STL.
We are grateful for your gift of time to this conversation. We encourage you to stay involved and get involved.
You are invited to join the conversation. If you, your family, or your organization is interested in talking about how we better the well-being of the region, sign up for more information, join the conversation, log on to aliveandwellstl.com, and let's build a plan on how we can work together and improve our overall health and become alive and well. The Regional Health Commission, with Chief Executive Officer Robert Friend Jr., committed to providing a detailed review of change over the past decade in 14 leading health indicators for the city and county of St. Louis. The first decade review of health status report, an update to building a healthier St. Louis. Discover the narrative, the data, and celebrate the progress already made to improve healthcare access and reduce health disparities in our region. Learn more at stlrhc.org. Alive and Well STL is another positive production of RareGem Productions. Thanks for listening.